Hey, everybody, I'm David Ridings. Thanks for joining us tonight. Live on Stand Against Dark Blue. Police and the police. Whew, man, I've been gone a long time. I was out last week traveling and unable to do shows, but we're going to make up for it this week. Tonight, I'm going to do a short video, and we're going to talk about tomorrow's show. I'm still working on getting some footage together. While I was out of town, I was surprised to see a case settle that was supposed to go to trial here in Nashville. And cases settle all the time, you know. In fact, most cases settle. Most cases don't go to trial. But in Nashville, a police officer was arrested. Andrew Delkey was arrested for homicide, and it was scheduled to go to trial this summer. He was arrested for shooting a fleeing suspect that was armed with a firearm. We've done a video on that shooting, and I'll play portions of the video tomorrow on tomorrow's show and show you what happened. And then we'll talk about what happened in court this week. The case was docketed for a plea. So Andrew Delkey, apparently upon the advice of counsel and probably lots of prayer and, you know, conversations with his family and weighing his options, decided to enter a plea to voluntary manslaughter. That is known in Tennessee as a Class C felony. He was charged with first-degree murder. And we'll talk a little bit about the punishments of first-degree murder and second-degree murder and things that he could have been found guilty for, all the way down to reckless homicide and negligent homicide. And we'll talk about the different ranges of punishment that he could have seen had he been convicted of a jury. And then we'll put it out there to you. I want your opinion. Do you think he would have been convicted had he gone to trial? And given the climate that we're in, and just, you know, stating the obvious, apparently, the climate we are in today is significantly different than the climate we were in when he got arrested and charged with this crime. So I can have my opinion, but I'm not going to judge what he did or second guess what he did. Certainly not going to put myself in the position that his attorneys were in having to advise him and counsel with him on that decision. But we'll have that on tomorrow's show. So tonight we're going to talk about another bully cop biting the dust. And I don't mean getting killed. I mean a bully cop that bites the dust and gets fired for his actions. Lance Corporal Trooper Salter was originally suspended and then ultimately fired for his actions. So let's take a look at what he did. So for those of you that couldn't tell, he he's driving in one direction and he sees cars coming in another direction. You hear a high-pitched tone, which is his radar, and it indicates that the car coming in the opposite direction is actually speeding. And depending on how fast the speed is, the tone gets higher pitched the faster the speed. So I could hear a really high pitched tone, which indicates a car going pretty fast. Took him a little bit to catch up with the vehicle, and then he calls it in, and we'll see what happens next.
Charlie Baker, Mike, 4792, CBN 4792. Okay, they got shades. Black tag, gold letter, star. Texas tagger. Driver, shut it off. Let me see your hands. Shut your vehicle off. Turn the vehicle off. See your hands, please. See your hands, please. Do not move. You the only one in here? Yep. You military? Nope. NFL? Yes, sir. You're under arrest. Step out, please. What I do? 89 and a 55. Keep your hands where I can see them. Oh. Step out, please. You're under arrest. Turn around, face that way, please.
Yes, you heard him correctly. What did I do? 89 and a 55. Now, this is not normal. I will admit, it's not normal to see a police officer pull somebody over and immediately say, you're under arrest. Get out and put your hands behind your back for simply speeding. But in this instance, that was the actual case. He arrested this man for going 89 in a 55. So 25 or more over the speed limit is an arrestable offense in this jurisdiction. So the officer was within his rights to do this. It seems like a pretty big overreaction, in my humble opinion. And this is NFL star Sam Montgomery. And we'll talk a little bit more in a few minutes about who this is and whether or not you think this was justified. And then I'll explain to you some things in this officer's past that might help explain why he did what he did so quickly.
Turn around, face that way, please. Spread your feet. Spread your feet. Wider, wider, wider. Point your toes out.
Now, see if you can follow these instructions. Listen carefully to what he says, and we'll talk about it in a minute.
Reach back with your hands. Sound of my voice, look forward. Do not look at me. Reach out, palms up. Reach out, palms up toward me. Back. Hands behind your back, palms up. Hands behind your back, palms up toward the sky. Do not move. Look away from me. Look away. Look away. Keep your feet together. Sir, if you cannot follow my commands, the next thing you're going to get some taser. Spread your feet. Whoa, I'm not calling any calls. Spread your feet. Palms up toward the sky behind your back. Do not move.
Unbelievable. Sir, if you cannot follow my commands, the next thing you're going to get is a taser. So he could have tased me because I didn't understand his commands. Hands behind your back, palms up. Palms up. He does this. He's like, palms up. Okay. No, hands back. Because he kind of stood up a little bit and he said, feet together. Well, earlier he said feet apart. Wider, wider, wider. Then he says feet together. So clearly this officer is rattled. This officer, in my humble opinion, is scared of this man. He's shouting out commands in an effort to get him to comply so he doesn't have to physically go up and try to arrest him because he knows that wouldn't work out well if this guy decided to resist. And so, this is Car Thief News Now. Well, thanks for joining us, Car Thiefanon News. I appreciate you watching the show. Make up your mind, right? Yeah, he was shouting out some commands and just didn't know whether he was coming or going. And this guy he was trying his best to follow the commands, and then the officer just gets rattled, and you can see how he just kind of stands way back and then sneaks up on him and puts the cuffs on. It appeared to me he was like afraid, and that's why he was doing it this way. We'll talk in a minute about what this officer's history is, and it'll probably explain some of why he did what he did.
Get 25 over, you get arrested. Sorry, good luck. 55, 467 1 time, Brother Mike. Where's your license at, sir? Just such a hurry for?
I'm going home.
Where you live at?
In South Carolina.
And what's your name?
Sam. Montgomery.
Okay, this guy does pretty good. He's clearly respecting the authority of this police officer, and he's not resisting in any way. I would say, having been on every side of this situation, been a police officer and a defense attorney, he's answering questions that he shouldn't answer. Now, he's being polite. He's trying to cooperate with the man, and he's being cooperative. But you can be cooperative in this country with a police officer and not give up your right to remain silent. And we say on this channel all the time, nothing good comes from you talking to the police if the police are questioning you, because the police are there to do a job. And no disrespect to the police. I used to be a police officer, so I'm not disrespecting a police officer by saying you shouldn't answer his questions. You should invoke your right to remain silent early and often, we say here on this channel. And police officers would agree with me. They do agree with me. If you're a police officer and you don't agree with me, you're just not, you're not telling the truth. Police officers are trained to interrogate you in a way that will entice you to answer their questions. They're allowed by Supreme Court decision to lie to you in order to get you to admit or confess to something. They're allowed to do a lot of things and use a lot of tactics in order to get you to confess. And that's why we say here, just don't talk to the police without an attorney. If an attorney starts asking you questions like, where do you live? Where you been? Where are you going? Why are you going so fast? You just say, I'm sorry, officer. I don't answer questions like that without an attorney. Now, nothing really negative happened from this guy talking to the police. Auditor in the making here. Yeah. Wonder if he's on the Brady list. Yeah. Good insight there. We're going to watch a little bit more of this, but this trooper in his history had been disciplined 2 or 3 times. Trooper Salter had been disciplined for unprofessional conduct and warned in 2014 for, believe this or not, he was actually given a verbal warning for failing to arrest an individual for something similar. And it was a law enforcement officer. So he decided not to arrest a law enforcement officer who had violated the law in front of him. And he basically gave him a break because he was a law enforcement officer. So when he found out this guy, you notice he asked him if he was military. He wasn't going to get in trouble for that again, in my opinion. That was something that was weighing in his mind when he made this decision to arrest the guy so quickly. Because when he said, are you military? He said, no. He said, I'm NFL. And he says, oh, you're NFL? You're under arrest. Get out and put your hands behind your back. Because he'd been disciplined in the past for letting somebody go because of their position, being in law enforcement. Well, the hierarchy here didn't think what he did here was becoming of a trooper. So they suspended him while they investigated it and then ultimately fired him. But let's watch again these instructions that he gives this guy. I'm going to back it up just a few seconds and let you watch again uninterrupted to see if you can follow this.
Turn the vehicle off. Minor.
So first he says, turn the vehicle off. And then, so the vehicle's off. He's not going to run from him. And then he gets him out of the car and immediately puts him under arrest. Listen to the commands he gives him.
55. Keep your hands where I can see them. Step out, please. You're under arrest. Turn around, face that way, please. Turn around, face that way, please. Spread your feet. Spread your feet. Wider, wider, wider. Point your toes out. Reach back with your hands. Sound of my voice, look forward. Do not look at me. Reach out, palms up. Reach out, palms up toward me. Back. Hands behind your back, palms up. Hands behind your back, palms up toward the sky. Do not move. Look away from me. Look away. Look away. Keep your feet together. Sir, if you cannot follow my commands, the next thing you're going to get some taser. Spread your feet.
Whoa, I'm not calling you phone.
Spread your feet. Palms up toward the sky behind your back. Do not move. At 25 over, you get arrested.
I'm sorry, enough.
55, 467, one time, Bravo Mike. Where's your license at, sir? Just what you hurry for.
I'm going home.
Where you live at?
In South Carolina.
Hey, what's your name?
Sam. Montgomery. It's in my pocket.
Kill somebody, you know.
I was on the road by myself. I'm sorry.
You passed two cars. You passed them running 89.
I was just trying to get my mama.
Stay here a second.
Yes, sir. Hard. Yes, sir.
Go left out. I'll do this to everybody that runs that fast, okay?
Yes, sir. I'm not going to try to.
I got you.
Yeah. You
You
can.
need me to help you with that necklace?
No, sir. You fine. I'm just not going to do anything crazy. Yeah.
I got you.
It's everything's
You
legal.
still on Haggard Street?
Yes, sir. My papers are still in the car.
The reason I asked about the military is your tag.
Oh, yes,
I have
sir.
to take some down.
Yes, sir.
All right, so 505 Haggard Street.
Yes, sir.
All right, you got a preference on the record for your vehicle?
Of where I can take it to?
Anything on your weapons?
No, I'm good.
All right, just got to check. Okay.
Can I have somebody come get my car, make a phone call, and we're gonna have shit for you. Because I just don't want to leave my car. Yeah,
Well, we're not gonna leave it.
I'm with you there, car thief and on. I don't hate cops either. I used to be a cop, but you ask any cop what they hate the most, it's not bad guys, it's bad cops. And this guy, you can tell the arrogance of this guy and just in how he treats people. Cops like that don't need to be cops. It's just, it's time that when we identify bully cops like this, and you know what I say, when you identify a bully cop with a video and you've got proof, you eradicate the bully cops. You got to get rid of them. You got to get them out of the police force. And good cops agree with that. So is this the worst I've seen? No. But it's clearly an overreaction. And this officer really mistreated this guy. And I think he did it partly because he was, one, afraid of the size of the guy. He didn't want to get in a tangle with the guy. And two, he was afraid because he'd been disciplined for not arresting a law enforcement officer previously. So he didn't want that to happen again. So I think he overreacted because of the previous. And I mean, I'm just convinced of that. I just think his overreaction here was a result of that previous discipline. And it's just a lack of training. He needed some remedial training, clearly. So the charge was 89 in a 55. He was charged with over 25 miles an hour over the speed limit. That was the charge. It was speeding, but because of the severity of the speed, it was an arrestable offense. Now, did he have to arrest him? No. He could have used his discretion. He could have written him a citation. You'll hear in just a minute, this guy calls his mother, and listen to what the mother says. Let me see if I can get to it.
Get it. Okay. That don't mean search.
So he tells him to get his phone out of the car, and then you can hear him say to himself, it doesn't mean you can search the car.
Yeah, I know that seat. Where's phone?
I don't know exactly where it is, but I need to get it. Okay. That don't mean search my car, bro.
He says, that doesn't mean you can search my car, bro. So I don't know if there was anything in the car. I don't know if there was something illegal in there, but he was kind of kicking himself for letting the cop go get his phone. And that was another reason. I mean, this guy does pretty well, but he gave the cop too much latitude. And by telling him you could go get his phone means that the cop can legally open the door because you gave him permission to, and anything he sees in plain view is something that he's capable of using as evidence against you, even without a warrant, because you've given him the permission to go in your car. It's called the plain view doctrine. In a situation like this, the police can only search your car incident to arrest. And in this jurisdiction, incident to arrest means, let me pause this. I've got the volume off. Incident to arrest means if you're arrested in the car, the police officer can search within the immediate reach of the person. But remember, he got him out of the car. So when he was arrested, he was actually out of the car. So he can't use that exception to the warrant requirement. The other reason he could search the car is if he were to tow the vehicle. He could search and do an inventory search based upon towing the vehicle. But you'll hear in a minute, the mom is going to be allowed to come pick up his car. This guy really does arrest him. He takes him down to jail, and Sam spends the night in jail, and the next day is released on a $350 bond, which basically he's paying the fine, I guess, as the bond to ensure that he's going to show up in court later. But he does get an opportunity here to call his mother.
You know a tow truck or anybody around here that you might want to call?
Yeah, can you just help me just a little bit?
What do you mean by helping?
I know these handcuffs are protocol and everything, but I promise you I'm a nice, gentle guy.
I understand. Well, we got protocol, but we have
Can you hit that middle button right there at the bottom? Yeah. Go to my contacts. And oh shit, these things hurt.
Okay, I'm trying to hurry up. Good job.
Let me see. Call. Call my mom. It's on her mom. It's type in MOM at the top of the little right there. Back. Yeah, mom, and hit that. No, that's just my mama. Calm down. Yeah, anything crazy, yes, sir. Thank you.
So he's thanking him. You know, he's being overly nice to this police officer who's arresting him for speeding. Remember? So, and I get it. The officer is enforcing the law, but one of the things they teach you early on is officer discretion. And in some cases, you should use it. And speeding offenses, even though they are an arrestable offense in some jurisdictions, you can really downgrade it and write a citation. You don't have to take the person to jail. Even though it is an arrestable offense, you don't have to take them to jail. And I agree here that Adolfo Carlos is the worst I've seen in a long time. We did a video on that about a week or two ago. You have to check it out on our channel. So let's listen to this phone conversation with his mom.
Hey, Mama, how you doing? I'm not in the best predicament, but it's not a bad one. Ouch. I got arrested for going too fast. You heard me? Yeah, I don't know where am I at, sir? I'm in Lawrence County. I think I gotta stay there until 9 in the morning. Yeah, I was going like 89 to 50, 55. No, they're gonna give me a ticket, but yeah, they arrested me. I'm literally like right down the street from home.
Why would they arrest you for a speeding ticket?
Man, this is Trooper Salter. I would throw him. He's got you on speakerphone in his car because he isn't handcuffed.
Yeah.
So at 25 over the speed limit is an arrestable charge. Okay. So at 25 over the speed limit, we're subject to take people to jail for that.
Subject to take people to jail for that. Doesn't mean you have to, but you're exerting your authority, and we all know you're in charge.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, ma'am. That's considered excessive.
Even she's just as nice as she can be. I mean, really, if I'm this police officer in this situation, I'm throwing this guy some shade.
Oh, well, that certainly is horrible. Is it possible that he not be arrested? Could I come pick you up?
No, man. Well, he's grown man. If I was going to give him the clear and let him go, I'd let him go like that. But I said, what are you talking about?
Mom, could you please do two things for me? One thing I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to call Sergeant Butler. I don't know if you have Coach Butler's number, his father, but I need you to call Sergeant Butler, and I need you to call Eric as well and Jeff.
I don't know Sergeant Butler's number.
Okay.
I can call Eric and I can call Jeff. Is there any numbers that I need to do as well?
Yes.
What number can I reach?
So ultimately, this cop arrests Sam and takes him to jail. I was just curious if anybody watching this show agrees with that arrest. I can't imagine there would be, but maybe. And there's a fly loose in my studio here that has hit me in the eye just a couple of times. That's why you see me doing this every few minutes. Anyway, well, I'm sorry I was gone all last week. We went to the mountains and enjoyed some whitewater rafting up in Montana. We went to Kalispell. We went to Glacier Falls National Park. Had a great time. And so we missed a few shows. We're going to make up for that this week. And we come to you live every weeknight, usually around 8 p.m., give or take a few minutes. We're trying to get a little more regular with that. On tomorrow's show, we're going to be talking about this plea bargain agreement with Andrew Delkey and the Daniel Hambrick case. And for those of you that don't remember that case, it was an officer-involved shooting here in Nashville, and the officer entered a plea back to basically keep from going to trial. And so we'll talk about that. We'll see if anybody out there agrees with his decision to avoid the trial or what you think about it, just in general. I'm interested in your comments. Which, by the way, as always, comment on this video, like this video, share this video with somebody that you care about, that you want to join the fun. Invite them to subscribe to our channel. You can find us at Stand Against Dark Blue on Facebook and YouTube, and Policing the Police. We'll be announcing some news later this month, and a new radio show. So we'll talk about that later. A little rebranding that we'll be doing. But we're still policing the police no matter what. In the meantime, you guys stand against the darkness. I'll be standing there with you. We're going to be shining laser-focused light on the police department. When they do something good, we shine a light on it. When they do something bad, we shine a light on it. So you ain't seen nothing yet. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, have a great night. Love you guys.